Something remarkable is happening in the world of political media right now, and honestly, you can almost feel the exhaustion coming from the people who are constantly forced to defend Donald Trump in public. Every few weeks, it seems like another spokesperson, supporter, or ally is pushed in front of a camera to explain away yet another controversy. And each time it happens, the defense somehow becomes more awkward, more uncomfortable, and more difficult to watch. Before we dive into the full story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Now, in today's clip, we're looking at a particularly interesting moment involving one of Donald Trump's own spiritual allies, a man who presents himself not just as a political supporter, but as a pastor, someone who claims to stand for moral leadership, truth, and spiritual guidance. His name is Pastor Mark Burns, and during a recent appearance with a UK broadcaster, he attempted to defend Donald Trump over growing questions surrounding the Epstein files. And let's just say, the attempt did not go smoothly. The discussion quickly turns toward the renewed attention around Jeffrey Epstein and the files connected to his network. These documents have sparked serious public interest and raised questions about powerful figures who may have had connections to Epstein over the years. Naturally, when these kinds of revelations surface, journalists start asking questions. They want clarity, they want accountability, and they want to know whether the people who once associated with Epstein have truly been transparent about those relationships. That's where Pastor Burns steps in. Rather than approaching the topic with careful reasoning or clear evidence, what we're about to see is a defense that becomes increasingly uncomfortable as the conversation unfolds. The interviewer presses on specific details, bringing up contradictions and documented reports that raise legitimate questions. Meanwhile, Burns tries to shield Trump from those questions, but the argument starts to unravel almost immediately. It becomes one of those moments where the more someone tries to explain something away, the more attention they accidentally draw to the very issue they're trying to dismiss. And that's exactly why this clip has been getting so much attention online. So what we're going to do is watch the exchange carefully. I'm going to let the clip play out so you can hear exactly what was said. Then afterward, we'll break down the claims, the arguments, and the moments where the defense simply falls apart. Because when a political ally goes on international television to defend a former president, you would expect a strong and convincing argument. But what unfolds here raises a lot more questions than answers. Let's get into the clip.
I wonder what you make of the ramifications in the United States of the publication of these Epstein files. Here, we've seen arrests, and we've seen a lot of parliamentary action. In the United States, not so much. Why?
That's a question that many are asking. Why we haven't seen more arrests, or any arrests for that matter, for those who are in the Epstein case, is obviously what's happened to those women. And I'm actually happy that the exposure has taken place. I'm happy to see that people like him has been exposed, and then people who helped support it and celebrated it is being exposed. And so I know that's a question that many people are asking on the left and on the right. Democrats and Republicans are asking the very same question.
Donald Trump has talked about himself being exonerated as a result of the release of these files, but he is undoubtedly a person who supported Jeffrey Epstein. Undoubtedly.
Well, Jeffrey Epstein did business with a lot of people. And let's be very clear. Remember, Donald Trump kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his Mar-a-Lago club. They were not on good terms. Matter of fact, Jeffrey Epstein hated Donald Trump. All of this is very much documented. So it's vexing and perplexing that people somehow keep trying to connect Donald Trump to
private plane.
They try to connect. Well, it's vexing and funny that people keep trying to connect Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein and those evil crimes. Jeffrey Epstein was a businessman, as evil as he was, and I'm grateful that these things are coming out and exposing a lot of people who actually was on the island to do some evil things. Donald Trump is not one of those people, and that's been very clear by people who are close to Jeffrey Epstein.
As you say, that it shows people who supported this man. Donald Trump supported this man. I mean, yes, they fell out latterly, but the files confirm that Trump flew on the plane multiple times, contradicting his previous public denials. The DOJ withheld over 50 pages of FBI interviews and notes from a woman who accused Trump of sexual abuse decades ago when she was a minor. This isn't what exoneration looks like.
Tom, listen, I'm on your show, and I'm supporting you because I'm on your show. But the point of it is, I don't know what you do privately. I don't know what you do when the lights get turned off. I don't know who you are when you leave here. I know who you are when I see you. I know you seem like a really nice individual. You work with, Margaret Thatcher.
Bit young for that. Theresa May.
I'm Theresa May. I'm so sorry. I got my history mixed up. But you understand what I'm saying. You're from that arena. But I have no earthly idea what you do behind your doors. I don't know what you look at. I don't know what you pull up on your computer. But does that make me guilty for coming to your show because I have no clue of what you've done in your own personal life?
Because Trump had no understanding.
And not just Trump. So many other people who have names have come up in these. I mean, remember the list was released, and you can see everybody from Michael Jackson, from from Supreme Court justices. They don't. So many names are on this list. Absolutely,
you're right. People are innocent.
But again, just because a name pops up doesn't necessarily mean that Donald Trump associated himself with these Allen and these horrendous crimes. Epstein was a financial individual who dealt with a lot of people. Bill Gates. Let's talk about Bill Gates. Why is his name popping up in those Epstein files? So the point of it is, I want to be very clear. Donald Trump has nothing to do with the evil and atrocities that Epstein has done. Donald Trump, like myself and you even, there's people that you do business with that you have no earthly idea what they do in their private time. That doesn't make you guilty by association. That just means that you were not a part of their private, intimate settings and lives. Again, Donald Trump supported the FBI in getting Epstein. Donald Trump kept Epstein out of his club. Donald Trump was not on good terms with Epstein prior to all of this stuff. The real question we should be asking ourselves is, why was it that even after Epstein was found guilty of already found guilty of doing these sex trafficking, these minor, why did the world continue to do business with this individual? To me, it would have seemed that, and that's the real question, not just Epstein, the whole entire world, Tom.
You have been in London, I think, for a couple of days now.
Yes.
I wonder if your time in London is reminiscent of J.D. Vance's description of this city, and sometimes the President of the United States description of this city as lawless, as unsafe. Do you feel that here?
Well, first of all, let me say, one thing I love about President Trump is that he is a man that says things that captures your attention and gets you focusing on it. He is the master art of the deal. That's why he wrote a book on it. So millions of copies of it. People even now still read and talk about how amazing that book is, because he's a master at getting you to talk about something that
you don't think London's unsafe.
Well, no, of course, London is not. Well, let me say this: parts of London is unsafe. Sure. So let's be clear about that.
But
there's some citizens. There's citizens, and there are parts of America that are unsafe. There are parts of the entire. There are parts of Rome that are unsafe, because evil is evil, and it's everywhere.
Do you think that Europe, as J.D. Vance said, is in a civilizational decline?
I think that Europe let Ukraine down. I think Europe has let Ukraine down. I think Europe should have easily, back in 2014, and not just Europe, but the West in general. I think that.
Would you include America in that?
Well, I just said the West. I think that those who were in power in 2014, when Russia, annexed Crimea, allowed that to happen. To me, that akin to when Nazi Germany invaded Poland and the West did nothing about it. And he said, hey, you know what? Since I invaded Poland, let me continue on. And so I believe that Europe has let him down. I'm grateful for President Trump because of President Trump, Europe now, even more so than ever, is bounding together to support Ukraine.
Well, although, of course...
Matter of fact, I think UK just issued out a wonderful package to Ukraine. President Zelensky just openly thanked them for doing that to help get their grid back on.
So what do you say to those like Trump or around Trump who have been parroting a lot of the Russian talking points about the reasons for that invasion of Ukraine, seem to acquiesce to the Russian viewpoint about what is happening with, they say, the encroachment of NATO? What would you say to them?
Well, I think America has been carrying the bill of NATO for far too long. I agree with President Trump that NATO, if NATO is going to be in existence, should be an organization that truly supports, and the other nations that are part of NATO should be.
Do you think part of the Russian invasion?
Well, let me finish.
Sorry.
NATO and those other countries that are supported by NATO should be offering their equal share.
Yes.
America has been carrying that bill for way too long, and now NATO President Trump is forcing NATO and the countries that are supported by NATO to carry their end of the share.
That is the response to Ukraine. It's obviously, as you know, I think you were in Ukraine relatively recently.
Yes.
But on this civilizational decline point, that's not true of Europe, is it?
Well, I mean, again, I'm not in Europe. Again, I'm not here to rebuttal against what President Trump. I don't agree with everything everybody says. I can only speak from what I see. As again, remember, a large portion of.
But you could relate this back to him when you're on the phone.
The movement, the Make America Great Again movement, was against Ukraine. I was against Ukraine. I was very verbally against supporting Ukraine because of the Russian propaganda that was being fed into conservative movement. Many people believe that Vladimir Putin was an amazing Christian because he was against certain things that conservatives in America are against. But until you go to Ukraine and you see the atrocities, you see the rapes, you see the violent situations that are taking place, you see the war crimes that the Russians and Vladimir Putin has allowed to happen to Ukraine, you can begin to question, how can this man be Christian or even be true conservative? So it was until, Tom, I got there, I discovered what others were saying was a lie. So I can't speak for President Trump. No, I'm not here to speak for Jay.
And after watching that entire exchange, you can start to understand why moments like this leave so many people shaking their heads. Because here's the thing that really stands out. The person stepping forward to defend Donald Trump in this situation is not just a political supporter. He's a pastor. Someone who publicly presents himself as a moral voice, someone who is supposed to represent honesty, integrity, and a commitment to truth. When someone carries that title, people naturally expect a higher standard. That's what makes this entire moment so frustrating to watch. Instead of offering a calm, consistent explanation, what we saw was a series of arguments that seemed more focused on shielding a political figure than addressing the actual concerns being raised. And when a religious leader is the one doing that, it raises an uncomfortable question. Is the goal here to defend truth or to defend a politician? Because if you go back to the moment where Epstein was being discussed, one part of the defense immediately stood out. The pastor tried to shift the conversation by asking why other names like Bill Gates appear in discussions around Epstein. But here's the issue with that line of reasoning. If the argument is that appearing in documents or associations should lead to scrutiny, then that standard has to apply equally to everyone. It can't suddenly change depending on which political side someone is on, and that's the inconsistency that many critics point out. For years, political figures across Washington have demanded investigations, hearings, and accountability when accusations or associations appeared around their opponents. The message was always the same: follow the facts, ask questions, and uncover the truth. So naturally, people are now asking a very simple question. If that standard applied in the past, why wouldn't it apply now as well? To be clear, raising those questions does not automatically mean someone is declaring guilt. Asking for transparency is not the same thing as making accusations. But what people do notice is the difference in energy depending on who is involved. When one political figure is under scrutiny, the response is, investigate everything. But when the spotlight turns elsewhere, suddenly the message becomes, there's nothing to see here. That's where accusations of hypocrisy start to emerge. And again, the reason this moment carries so much weight is because the person making the defense is a pastor, a role that traditionally represents moral clarity. For many people who grew up in faith communities, pastors were the individuals who taught them about honesty, accountability, and doing the right thing even when it's difficult. So when viewers see a religious leader passionately defending a political figure, instead of emphasizing transparency and truth, it creates a disconnect. It brings to mind a simple question that many people raised growing up in church. What would the right thing to do actually be in a situation like this? For many, the answer is straightforward. If serious questions exist about powerful individuals connected to a criminal network, then the priority should be transparency. Let the information come out. Let investigators examine it. Let the truth speak for itself. That approach would protect victims, protect innocent people from false accusations, and maintain public trust. But what critics believe they're seeing instead is a political reflex. Defend first. Question later. And in moments like this interview, that instinct becomes very visible. The situation becomes even more confusing when the conversation shifts to international politics. During the same discussion, the pastor speaks strongly about issues involving Ukraine, Russia, and global leadership. Yet at the same time, he continues to defend a political leader whose own approach to those international issues has often sparked intense debate. That contradiction is part of why exchanges like this gain traction online. Viewers begin comparing the statements being made with the broader political reality around them. And when those things don't quite line up, people notice. At the end of the day, moments like this remind us how powerful political loyalty can become. It can lead people to defend arguments that might otherwise raise serious questions. And when that defense comes from individuals who also claim moral authority, the scrutiny becomes even stronger. But now the conversation shifts to you. What did you think about that exchange? Did the defense make sense to you, or did it raise more questions than answers? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. And if you enjoy this kind of political breakdown and commentary, make sure you like the video and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.